Hello everyone and thank you for joining me. Today I am going back to the carbon paper that I've been using from this Portofino block. Um I have about 9 pages left with the one that I'm including the one that I'm working on today, and I would like to finish it maybe before the half end of the year. So this way I can go back to a more conventional paper size. Not that I have anything against this paper that I'm using, I do like it. It's just like I was mentioning in the past, it's kind of hard to find proper storage for it. Anyway, nothing really special. As you've seen me showing what I'm using today is just one of my fountain pens. And I guess more special for today, I will be using the Octopus ink, the Elephant Black. I don't know if I made a video yet of me drawing with this black ink, but this ink is supposed to be an artist ink, and it is supposed to be waterproof for writing, sketching, and coloring. I guess I will be putting it to the test and see how actually good it is. I believe it is carbon based, I don't remember. I'm actually curious how good it is I was actually curious how good it was compared with the other inks that I had, the other India inks, and that turned out to not be very waterproof. Spoiler alert, I guess, to my surprise, this ink is extremely well behaved. When I used water on top of it without letting it sit for too long, maybe 5 minutes after I was done sketching, there was no bleeding. Like usually, even with carbon black from platinum, even after you leave it for a day or so, when you come with water on top of it, there is a little bit of a wash coming out of it, very faint. The paper doesn't stay white, it gets slightly barely visible grayish. With this one though, no issue with that. The paper stayed white and there was no visible bleeding that I could see. So I believe this might become one of my favorite fountain pen inks. Now this ink is definitely a little bit more challenging. Specifically for fountain pens, I would not recommend to just let it dry in your pen if you plan to not use it for a longer period of time. Unless you have a very good sealing mechanism, I would definitely recommend to get the ink out of the pen and wash it properly. Basically, I would even recommend to disassemble the pen fully, as in removing the feed and nib, removing the collar, let them soak in warm water with some dish soap, and then brush them and clean them properly. If you plan on keep on using it, I guess that's okay. It's just basically from my experience as I'm using it. As a funny thing, the nib that I'm using on this fountain pen, it's a nib that I got it from Osprey. I believe their nibs are made in India for them specifically because they are branded Osprey, but the design looks very, very familiar with a lot of other flex nibs that I've seen coming from India. Now they might just copy the design and where these nibs are made. From my part, it is speculation. I don't know if they mentioned this anywhere in their website. I personally never seen it, but I am just guessing. Anyway, so the nib that I'm using today, it's an extra fine flex nib. A little bit of history on this specific nib. I tried to see how flexible this nib, and I think I might have pushed it a little bit too much in the past, and I did sprung it a little bit. However, I did fix it. Now, and I did work on it a little bit just to make it a little bit smoother. It was a little bit scratchy when I got it. Now, I don't know if my quote-unquote fix made it worse or made it better. All I can tell you is that with regular ink was working fine. However, with this specific ink, it was running extremely dry. Again, I'm not 100% sure it is the nib. Like I mentioned, I did fix the nib and the nib was actually working fine. But this ink tends to be drying very quickly, and it gets to be tacky on the nib very quickly as well. So I would tend to say that maybe this ink is a little bit more challenging for nibs like this or for fountain pens. Now, I am okay with risking this fountain pen because it is my fountain pen. I know how I built it, I know what I can do with it, and I know how to take it apart and clean it and risk it, sort of speak. But if you have a nicer fountain pen, I would say maybe don't use it. Don't use the ink with that fountain pen. Probably it's better to use it with a fountain pen that you could risk to lose it, or you'll be okay with losing it. So basically, use this ink as is intended, as a tool, and make sure you use it on a tool that you don't mind losing it. With that said, going back to the drawing, not 100% sure what I drew today. I kind of, as usual, let my imagination just do its own thing. I had the original shape that I started with in my head. It was kind of a peanut shape. The actual husk, I believe it's called husk, that envelops the seeds of the peanut, if those are seeds, and then kind of grew from there. I'm actually quite surprised with what I end up, and goofy creature, kind of scary. I guess that's my theme of my drawings, but I like it. It turned out kind of cool. Now, on the painting side of things, when I started doing the painting, I had no color scheme in my head. I kind of went with the flow, reacting to what I was seeing on the paper, and just trying things and try and bring some balance and some depth and some interest to it. In the end, I might have overdone it because the creature kind of tends to blend in with the background. But in my head, I guess it is kind of a misty situation, and the creature does blend in with its surroundings. It feels like the leg, or I guess the trunk, if that's kind of a plant, or I don't know what to call it, seems to be a little bit more sharper than the actual face. The face seems to be kind of has a glow to it, an interesting glow to it. The eyes turn out quite hypnotic, at least from my perspective, and I kind of like that. The colors that I used were 3 types of blues that I have, more of a blue mauve kind of a thing. Then I used the orange, the pink, used a little bit of the red colors in there. And in the end, I actually used the black that I have just to bring more darkness towards the bottom part. But this black that it comes with, it has kind of a bluish or mauve hint to it. So it kind of blends in with the other colors pretty well. It's not a perfect black. As I mentioned, very pleasantly surprised by the black that I have. It almost has an India ink quality to it. Even when I look at it in a different angles and how the light basically bounces from the paper, I do see a similar sheen as I would see on the shellac that binds the India ink, which is very interesting because as far as I know, this is a carbon-based ink, and it is intended to be used for fountain pens. It's not just calligraphy nibs or brushes. Beautiful ink though, I like it. If you have a chance to work with it, definitely try it out. But like I mentioned, don't use it in your favorite expensive fountain pen. And if you do, don't let it dry in it. Clean it right away if you don't plan to use it for a long period of time. Now, again, since I'm not sure if this nib was the issue, I do have a different regular nib from Osprey, still in extra fine. So for my next drawing, I might just use the same fountain pen, but switch to the other nib. And my plan is for the next 3 weeks or so, I will be using this paper and this fountain pen specifically. So I won't really have a lot of things to say about the setup. It's just probably just rambling as usual and maybe talking more about the drawing. With that said, this is the end of it, I guess. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I'll hopefully see you next week. And as usual, I wish you nothing but the best and a wonderful day or night, whatever you are. Take care. Bye.